Now, first thing that I want you guys to understand is that we're going to be ranking these players by fit, and I'm going to do that by color, right? None of these players suck, right? None of these players are going to, I think, be like huge busts. None of them are going to be franchise changing players that can go into organization and just light it on fire. However, I am going to rank them through color, and red means that they're a good player, but they just really don't fit. I think what the Spurs have cooking right now, they're not really a part of that menu. Yellow means that they're a good player, and I wouldn't mind having them on the team. I just don't feel like it fits the Spurs' needs or anything like that. So it's kind of like I'd be a little confused if they drafted these guys in the yellow range, but they're still good players. And in the green, for me, is those are the guys that can come into this team day one and either start or be a main contributor coming into their first 2 or 3 seasons, and they can just make an impact and grow with the team. I just think they're best fit for the now and best fit for the long term. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First, Jakobe Walter. Now, I'm comping him to a Cam Thomas out of Brooklyn, mostly because, I mean, this guy has a green light. They really did a good job with him over there in Baylor. He's got a great shot. He's got supreme confidence in that shot. Great touch around the basket. Likes to get into the paint, creep in off the 3-point line, and get his shot off. Baylor really looked to run a lot of sets for him. He's a great perimeter target, and if that's what your team needs, if your team needs a guy that has that confidence from beyond the arc, then I think he's a great pick, maybe in this top 12 range. However, I feel like the Spurs, if it's not a point guard, I don't see them utilizing pick number 4, pick number 8 to try to get a guard in there. So that's kind of my take on that. Starting off this draft, we'll go ahead and put him down there at the bottom. Next, let's go ahead and see who comes out next. Ron Holland out of the G League Ignite. He's a forward. He's a great athlete. Really has an aggressive mindset on him. I am comparing him a little bit to a mixture between John Collins and our own Keldon Johnson. He has a nice, comfortable shot. It seems like from beyond the arc. He only shot 24%, but when you see the game film, it looks fluid. There was a lot of things going on with that Ignite team, but he has a great motor on him. He's aggressive, but he's just a little bit undersized in that 6'8" range. And the Spurs already have a Jeremy Sohan, a Keldon Johnson, to kind of fill those needs there. And so I think that upside is kind of limited there. Like he can come in and just like a John Collins and do the dirty work, but he can also kind of stretch the floor like a KJ kind of can as well. So kind of ranking him in the terms of the Spurs big board, he falls down towards the bottom. Next, we have Dalton Knecht. Now, Dalton Knecht, I think I have him here as a guard, but really he's more of a small forward. I kind of comping him right now to a Doug McDermott, or let me see, who was that? It was Doug McDermott or Kevin Herter, right? I mean, he's got a 6-shot, 3-ball. He's aggressive. His in-between game is nice. He's a little bit older. We talked about that. Again, 6'6", small forward. I think that's a little bit too small in terms of that physical quality that the Spurs like to draft. I think the Spurs are going to draft guys with high upside potential athletically as well as on the court skill wise. And so I kind of feel like at 24 years old, Dalton Knecht really isn't that guy to come into the San Antonio Spurs and kind of get minutes and kind of get on the floor and push the team to get better. Because that's what you want at pick 4 and 8. You want guys that are going to push the team to get better. So Dalton Knecht falls under that range. Great player. I really like him. Don't really see him fitting with the Spurs. Now, next we have Nikola Topic. Now, Nikola Topic, he's the last person here in this meter, in this red range. And really the reason why I have him here, I understand he's a top 4 or 5 pick projected wise. He's a point guard. He did go down with an injury. A lot of people in the comments were talking about that after I put out my last video, and I think he got injured literally like the day after I recorded or something like that. So I was really unfortunate to see him go down. But I don't think the Spurs are looking for this type of guard. Now he has a great head on him. He can really pass the ball. Sure, he can probably find Wimby, find open shooters. But when I'm comping him, I kind of comp him to a Goran Dragic, former Spurs pick, and a Nando De Colo, who's also a former Spurs pick. Now, if you guys don't remember Nando is like one of the best point guards to ever come out of France, whose name isn't Tony Parker. Seriously, he was on our squad. I believe we drafted him the year we drafted Kawhi Leonard, or the year after that. And Nando is an awesome point guard. Really reminds me of Nikola Topic, the way that he can just kind of create. But there was something about, the Nando fit with the NBA, not necessarily the Spurs. It's just, I don't know if it was the physical stuff or the speed or the athleticism that is required to play in today's NBA, like, or even back then's NBA. Nando really couldn't get it going here. And I kind of don't want to experiment with that. I don't think the Spurs would want to experiment with someone who kind of has that potential to not work out in the NBA. Now, I think, again, he's a great point guard. I think he can get some run with some team out there. I just don't think it's a really good fit for San Antonio moving forward into the future. So Nikola Topic is going to be there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's look at who's falling under this yellow meter range here, right? And that's a player who, again, I don't see the Spurs drafting, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did, just because the player has it, right? He is that good. I just don't maybe feel it fits a need. And so right now we're going to start with Reed Sheppard. I really love Reed Sheppard, and I love what I'm hearing about Reed Sheppard. It's not always about the physical potential or skill potential, which he does have, but I'm comparing him to two players. I'm kind of comparing him to a Mike Conley, and I'm comparing him to a DiVincenzo, Dante DiVincenzo type player. Mike Conley is because he has an IQ, is what I'm hearing, is that he sees the game 2 or 3 steps ahead. And at his size and with his athletic limitations, the fact that he can still get 4.5 assists, 2.5 steals a game. He's putting up 12.5 points. He has a great three ball. He's a great shooter, and all that. But in order to really do that, I mean, you got to be on another level IQ wise. And I don't see him being a point guard for the Spurs. So that means if they did draft him, he would be more lines of a shooting guard. And in my just perspective right now, I may be limiting myself a little bit, but I'm kind of pushing shooting guards off to the side. I feel like we're good with Devin. Devin's going to get the majority of the run at $24 million a year. This guy's going to play and get the ball a lot of shots. Then you have guys like Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley. You have these other guards on the squad that need to get that run as well. So I kind of just don't think they go with a shooting guard in this case. So I love Reed Sheppard, but I'm gonna have to put him there in that spot. Next, we have Matas Buzelis. I know he's a top 4 or 5 draft pick. Why don't you like him, Rob? Well, I do. I really like him. But I just feel like right now he's a little bit too much of a project. Like he's still just a big ball of clay, right? So he's very raw, right? And he has a lot of IQ. I think that's something that we saw out of him this year is that two things. His fundamentals are really crisp, really high, very solid. He has a high IQ as well, but he needs to work on a few things. He needs to tighten up his shot. He needs to tighten up his handle a little bit off the dribble. But he is a weapon. Like I can't deny it. This guy will be a weapon in the NBA. He's a legit NBA developmental project, and he does a lot of things well. And there's some things that just pop that he does that just pops out, and you're just like, wow, oh wow, he can do this. Oh wow, he can do that. But he kind of really doesn't do anything too consistent. He kind of does a lot of things well, not many two things great. He is great in transition. Like there are some spots that you see it, but he's great in transition. He's great on one-on-one, one-on-two opportunities, getting to the rim, finishing above defenders. In the G League, he was. I love how patient he is, kind of like with his attack. He can really catch and maneuver his way into the paint with 2 or 3 dribbles. So there's a lot of good there. His mechanics look good on his shot. His stats aren't really there, but the shot looks like it has a lot of potential with the high release point, everything that he's got going with that. He has a great mid range game. I saw him hit that mid range game winner in the All Star break. We saw that too. So he's got a lot of that to him. I'm comping him right now to a Franz Wagner, mostly because he just plays like him. I feel like he plays like he's like Franz, except with a little bit higher upside scoring wise. Like Franz is great IQ, can really move the ball, really attack. He's strong. I think this guy's going to be a lot like that, except with a little bit higher of an upside in terms of the offense. And so yeah, so the Spurs, they are a team that can develop him. I just feel like they can mold him into whatever they want. However, the Spurs aren't really on that timeline. I feel like Buzelis is 1 or 2 years away from being what he might start to become. And so I just feel like that's a little bit further down the line. because we need kind of um, a clear idea of what type, what we're going to be able to put on the floor next to Wimby. So I just feel like time wise, it doesn't really work out. Not that I wouldn't mind seeing him on the team. That's not it at all. I just feel like right now is not really the time for him to be with the Spurs. So, I don't know. That's just what I thought of right now. Next, we have Alex Sarr, the potential number one pick. Rob, you put him in the yellow category. What's going on? Well, I mean, look, Alex Sarr is a fantastic basketball player. Like he's a great off the ball big man. He can really get to the rim. He has great touch around the rim when he gets there. He's a great finisher. He likes to throw it down in traffic and jump up over people. Now that was in the other league he was in. Now in the NBA, we'll see kind of how that transitions over as his like highest strength. I don't know. I still got to see it. I would kind of compare him to an Evan Mobley, who I love too. Evan Mobley's a great player. Again, um, he's like Evan Mobley with a little bit better playmaking chops to him. He can kind of shoot a little bit better, obviously, as well. His shot looks nice. He looks comfortable shooting the ball. But again, that's not really the type of big man I feel like the Spurs would want to put next to Wimby if they were going to put a center and on the team and push Wimby out to the power forward. I kind of don't see it being Alex Sarr at this point. So in terms of fit, again, not that he's you know uh, ranked. Not that I'm ranking him like these aren't player rankings. Again, best fit for the Spurs. I kind of comping him to Evan Mobley. Not really the type of guy you want next to Wimby, I think, at this point, if I'm the Spurs. So next, let's get into this green range. The first guy in this green range is Stephon Castle. Now, let me talk about Stephon Castle for a little bit. When I'm going over his film, man, like he's a day one ready, NBA ready, probably the most NBA ready player I think in this draft. And like I wouldn't even be surprised if he went top three. I really wouldn't. I think he can really come in day one and make a change. He's got this and really help a team, right? Get to that next point and give them an identity. Because when I'm watching his film, his craftiness, his footwork, his change of pace, the strength that he plays with on the block, his toughness, he almost does it all. Like he does this all really well without really getting off the ground, and that's something that I really like. I like players who are athletic because he is athletic and he can dunk over people. But I like players who don't have to use their athleticism to become a good basketball player. And I feel like he has that in spades. So he can really jump, but there's that heavy stock to his fibers, like he's a heavy set dude. He's got a low center of gravity. So I love that. I think when we're talking about player comps, I think of Cade Cunningham. I think of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I think of Marcus Smart. Sorry, Marcus Smart. Derek White, even because when you play low to the ground, that usually lends itself to the defensive end as well. Like he can probably be a really good on-ball defender, play with his body. A little Drew Holiday, even maybe even I kind of really like Stephon Castle, and if the Spurs take him at 4 or at 8, I think he can start right away. Let's talk about why he's in the green. Think he really could start at the 3 spot. There's a point guard, there's Devin Vassell, and I feel like that third guy could be Stephon Castle with how defensively minded he is, and Julian Champagnie. Damn, there it is. I feel like he could be in the starting lineup day one for Julian Champagnie. I think he's that good, and he has that type of upside. So, the first guy in this green meter, which is I kind of before I keep going, all of these guys in the green, I'm having trouble ranking them in terms of who I would want at pick 4 or 8. But if we got them anywhere, I think it would be great for the Spurs moving forward. So let's kind of keep going now. So next we have Cody Williams. Cody Williams, man, this is a long, athletic, sharpshooter. Shot 41% from 3. Dude is 6'8", and he looks like he might still be growing. He's barely going to be 19 and a half years old come draft time. Um, and he's got a brother who's on the number 1 team in the West. Yes, please. Yes, yes. Give me Cody Williams. I don't even know like how to feel about his upside because I feel like there's no ceiling on it. I feel like there's no ceiling on his upside. I feel like he has the potential to become like a Giannis Antetokounmpo type player in transition. So he's super tough. I really like seeing him run the floor. Once he runs the floor, he's if he's going to the rim, he's in the sky, man. This guy's jumping over everybody. So he's a really nice shooter. He's a prototypical 3-and-D type player. I feel like if he can get it going on the defensive end, he might even be a top 3, top 4 prospect in this whole entire draft. So this guy is NBA ready, and I think if you're talking about 3 or 4 years down the road, building him up, building his body, building his role. Like you start his role a little bit smaller, maybe he might be able to come off the bench for the Spurs. Do I feel like he can start? You put a point guard out there. You put Devin, Vassell, Wemby, Sohan, and maybe Cody Williams. Maybe you bump Sohan up to that 3 position, and then you let Cody Williams kind of step in at that power forward, small forward position, and you just never know. So great fit, great long term potential. Clearly has a lot of upside and a lot of game to him. Comes from a good basketball family. Has a brother who's a rising star in this league, and I think I think all of those are signs that lend himself to being a good fit for the San Antonio Spurs. So I'm kind of comping him to a Rashard Lewis type perimeter player, long, athletic, can shoot, can also attack off the dribble, and is smart off the dribble. And in transition, he has that little bit of Giannis to him. I feel like if he can go coast to coast and get that strength up, he would be a monster in transition, just kind of the way Giannis is. You can't really stop him. All right, so who's next? Let's talk about Donovan Clingan. Donovan Clingan. I'm really liking the idea, the more I think about it, of putting him as the starting 5 for the Spurs moving forward. Now, I know in the comments of my last video, someone was saying that Edey was the best big man in college basketball. Maybe he was. I don't want to argue that. You might be right. But objectively, I think that Clingan, 2 years, he was a sophomore, won a championship as a sophomore, and it just has more potential than maybe Edey does. I don't know how well he guards around the perimeter. That's always a concern now with big men, is how well they do that or how well they can adapt to that. But I do feel that, he's, how do I say, the back to the basket game is nice. I'll start there. The back to the basket game that he has is nice already. I don't think he's going to be missing bunnies, missing little dump downs from whoever. I think he's going to be an elite finisher at the rim. Now, do I feel like that back to the basket game is needed in the NBA today? Not too much, but I feel like when you do need it, it matters. The opportunity to use that when you need it matters. Think of like Jakob, how he can use a little bit of bully to him. Jakob, he needed a little bit more of I'm a bully you, I'm gonna bang you up, and I'm gonna do that. He was more of a finesse type big man, and I feel like Clingan is the opposite of that. Like, he wants to bully you, he wants to make you feel small, and he wants to really make you feel him on the defensive end. And so, there's that. Yeah, he's a fantastic rebounder. He's a fantastic 2-hand finisher at the rim. Again, he doesn't mess around, puts the ball in the rim. He can finish with contact. He can finish around 2 or 3 smaller players in like a crowded paint. So in college, so in an uncrowded paint in the NBA, I mean, it should be even better for him. So he can really pass the ball too. I was looking at his passing ability, which is crucial for the Spurs. I mean, Zach Collins did a great job of moving the ball, finding backdoor cutters and all that. It's very important to the way we played. So he can really make some impressive passes, bounce passes, backdoor passes, either dump down off the top or bounce to backdoor guys. He does a little high-low action. If he can pass the ball high-low to Wemby back and forth, I mean, that's something defensively is intimidating. If you put him as the starting 5 next to Wemby for the next 7, 8 years, 10 years, or whatever, I mean, guys, defensively, holy crap. Defensively, he's a monster, and that would be one of the most monstrous defensive lineups that you can think about. If you think about him protecting the rim and letting Wemby go to that power forward and cause all that havoc on the perimeter, man, dude, that honestly makes me so excited to have that as a foundation kind of thing that you put in your back on, is these 2 guys at the rim, him and Wemby. So, I can, he can really alter shots and shut things down in the paint, and he can recover as well. So, I think as a comp, I'm comparing him to, I think it's Walker Kessler, right? Or I think it's what it is, Walker Kessler from Utah. It's just like a really big elite defender who can stay on the floor, who isn't a liability. And honestly, he can be a foundation piece, kind of how they have like Walker Kessler and then the other guy, what's his name, Laurie Markkinen over there in Utah. I think like a double big tandem of Klingan and Wimby is something that can be very very special, very very special. All right, so if we draft him at 4, I would love it. If he's still there at 8 and we can draft him at 8, man, I think the Spurs should do it. Honestly, I think they should look up to sure up that center spot and not have it be such a mystery with Zach Collins or trying to figure out what Charles Bassey can be, you know what I mean? Something like that. Dominic Barlow, all these guys are kind of too small. Like we need someone who's like big, who can be really big next to Wemby and let Wemby go out and play out on the perimeter. Next, we have Rob Dillingham, right? I'm kind of comparing him to a John Wall slash Darren Williams. It's kind of hard for me to put my finger on him because I don't want to peg him just as like a small scoring guard because there's a lot more to his game. I feel like he's an athletic, score first point guard. That's first off. He's an amazing scorer. He's an amazing score first point guard. So he still needs work. I feel like like he does have that deep ball potential. Though it looks a little clunky his shot at this point, but I mean he has an agile bag. Like he has an agile dribble. Off the dribble, he can really break players down, break his defender down, and head to the rim. Now when he's on his way to the rim, he can really show off. He can really show off a few things. He can show off his athleticism. He can show off his craftiness, his soft touch around the rim. And as a playmaker, I really like the way he finds guys open on the way to the rim. If it's either the roll guy from a screener or a cutter that's cutting off ball, the short roller, the guy in the dunker spot, he can throw a lob. Which are all great tools for like a 2-man game. So if you want him in pick and rolls with Wimby, I think the potential is high there. His scope and kind of creativeness is very impressive. So as long as he can kind of make simple reads along the way and find open shooters, find Devin, find guys that are out there on the break, and then also kind of implement all that IQ skill combination with the ball in his hands. I mean, he can be pretty damn good. He can be really damn good. So he has the tools to be a really big threat at the point guard spot. And I think that's a difference. It's like, yeah, you can have a good point guard out there. You can have a game manager out there, but do you have a threat? Do you have a threat at the point of attack? And I feel like he can fit that mold really well. So, he's a really pretty damn good on ball defender as well. He can really pick people's pocket. He's got a nose for loose balls and for reading passing lanes. So the defensive chops are there as well. The IQ is there. The hustle is there, all behind all that. So that my player comps are kind of I feel like with him. I didn't want to tag him as just like any other small guard because I feel like he has way more to that than just being like a scoring type little guard. I mean, he's not little. He's 6'3". He's a little bit smaller, but I feel like if you're looking at instead of drafting Trae Young, you want someone who can do similar things, maybe not as well, obviously, as Trae Young can at this point. But if you want to draft your own guy that has that same type of potential, even higher defensive potential, you look at drafting Rob Dillingham. So I really like that pick for the Spurs. If they can get Rob Dillingham and Klingan, speaking of those two guys in particular, if they can get them with the 4 and 8, I mean, that's a good direction to place this team on for the next 2 or 3 years. You would have Dillingham at your point. You would have Devin Vassell at your 2. You would have Sohan at your 3. You would have Wimby at your 4 and Klingan at your 5. Like that 5 right there. That 5 could be it. That can be it for the next 7 years if they pan out and if it works out. Which is always a big if, right? But I mean, talking about filling the holes in your starting lineup, those two guys on the roster is something that, man, makes me super excited. Now, the last guy we're going to talk about is Saccharie Risacher. I don't know. Y'all taught me how to pronounce it right in the comments. I'm just blanking on it right now. But thank you guys for doing that, for helping me try to pronounce his name. But I'm just going to call him Zach. Zach, the French connection between Wimby is something that's interesting. He's a runway type player. I feel like I'm kind of comparing him to a mixture of Cam Johnson from Brooklyn, who used to be on Phoenix, and with a Keegan Murray in Sacramento. Kind of a blend between those two guys because he has a lot to him. And I feel like he has that runway to get better, I feel like, over the next 7 years. And not that he's not good now, but he's just so skilled. Like he has such a high ceiling in multiple areas. Offensively, his game is pretty developed. It's pretty diverse. Maybe a Boris Diaw, like a taller, athletic Boris Diaw, is another way to put it, with a better shot. But his athletic potential, there seems to be something there athletically. I think like he's still skinny, still kind of lanky, but he has this athletic ability not just to run, sprint, change shots, attack the rim on offensively. There's something to his athleticism that I feel like could also grow over the next 2 or 3 years. So, he's a guy who has a thin build, but he has a bounce to him, a strength to him to get to the rim, to finish at the rim through contact. So those are all good signs. He seems also to be able to shoot the ball with confidence. They did run a lot of sets for him, get open on the perimeter, and sets to get him going to the rim. So I really like his patience on the catch. He has a great feel for decision making, and he doesn't rush things. He likes to see what's happening in front of him and then attacks it. So that's high IQ type stuff. And this is a type of player I feel like the Spurs, they can mold into whatever they want at his 6'9" frame. He's another guy like Cody Williams, who I feel like can come in here, and according to Tankathon, he's the number 1 ranked small forward. Cody Williams is at 5. But those are the two guys that I really like. If the Spurs are going to try to get longer and more athletic, he has a higher IQ. He'll have a French connection with Wemby, which is always great. They'll play a lot together on the Spurs for their national team and all that. So there's that to factor in as well. But high IQ, length, versatility. I can see him being a real 3-and-D type player, kind of like those guys from New Orleans, right? Like you got the Troy Murphy or Trey Murphy, and then you have the other guy too. I'm blanking on their names, but you have those two really long forwards that are really athletic and can shoot the ball. Just 3-and-D type players. I mean, you need those guys. You need those long athletic guys. So this is my big board, guys. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Do you guys see it the way I do? Do you guys see this big board the same in terms of like fit? Do you feel like these players the players that are in the red or in the yellow, do you feel like they can come into the Spurs organization and impact them and be a part of their long-term plans? Or are you with me, kind of like those top 5 guys are the ones that we need to keep our eyes on at 4 and 8, right? So again, I wouldn't mind if they ended up taking Saccharie Risacher or whatever, and another player, or if they go with Donovan and Rob, or if they go with Cody Williams and Zach, and they just both get 2 long forwards and let them battle it out. Or if they need to shore up that 3 spot and they want like a scorer, low to the ground type defender, and Stephon Castle. So a lot of upside with those guys, in my opinion, in terms of fitting in with this team. So let me know what you guys think. I am going to be doing some mock drafts in the future. Again, the way that all this will get figured out is depending on what Atlanta does, what Washington does, what Houston does. And if I'm thinking Houston. I was thinking about them the other day, and that's a really intriguing thing to watch. I wonder if they're going to keep their pick or not. They have so much young talent already, and I know they want to win now. So I don't know what Houston's approach to all this is in terms of what they're going to do with their pick. But as I kind of go through those upcoming videos, we'll do some mock drafts and we'll try to figure all that out, and create some scenarios that maybe lend us to figure out who might be available at pick 4 or 8, depending on how certain things go. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for dropping comments down below. What's most important to this whole channel is you guys letting me know your thoughts, what you guys feel, if I'm crazy, if I'm onto something, if you agree, do you disagree. Let me know in the comments below. I love reading all your comments. And share this video with another Spurs fan if you can. I really appreciate you guys. I've been Rob Trejo Jr., and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Adios.